Boys and girls, your attention, please.
Hello, and welcome back inside the Park for May for podcast number 945. This is Todd.
No, Todd, not now.
A.K.A. Negative Camber. You know what we do on race weekends.
We watch one, then we talk about it. Then we watch one, then we talk about it. Come on, Todd.
I mean, why not? That's exactly what we do. But before doing that, I am representing. I've got my GBR on. I got my British flag. Oh, other sleeve. It is the British Grand Prix review, and that's what we're going to do. And I know as a Yankee, this is awful close to the 4th of July to be celebrating all things British, but I'm doing it. But before covering the British Grand Prix, I got to go find a real race car driver.
Out of the wasteland.
You know who this is?
Beautiful. He's crazy.
Hello, everybody. This is Paul Charsley, the International.
Paul, you look like you just crawled out of the Ardennes forest, like you were over in Bastogne beating the Nazis back to Berlin. Look at you. You just got back from Spa-Francorchamps.
I sure did, yeah.
The mighty.
I was on the plane this morning, and now I'm here this afternoon. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it is crazy.
Except I was on a plane. I don't know if you've ever done it, but
once.
It was facing the back,
yes,
facing the opposite way, and that just threw me off the whole time.
I know.
I'm used to feeling stuff in the back of my back,
Yeah.
And it was like so weird the whole time. I couldn't figure it out. Don't like it.
I know. And you slow down, it's like, whoa, it's like,
it's like, what's going on? Am I spinning?
Yeah.
Did I just spin and I'm going backwards into the barrier? I don't know what's going on.
It's a little unnerving.
Feeling.
You kind of feel like, like Ollie Behrman and Esteban spinning, in silhouette,
right.
That sort of thing. Yeah, that's crazy. So you were over there
Gene
for the
Haas going, oh,
yeah, right.
Not again. I thought we got rid of those guys.
Yeah. You were over there for the Fun Cup.
I was. Yeah, it is fun. Yeah. So a little bit of fun. I just came over after the Glen through Canada, and then so it's something we do every year, and it's part of the Heart of Racing's program, and it's a lot of people that work for different entities within Gabe's businesses, and we're kind of like the highlight trip for people.
That's great.
So they win, and what happens is they come out. It's a 25-hour race at Spa, which is awesome.
In VWs.
In little VW race cars, and everyone's kind of got the same car, but there's two different classes, and one is a two-seater, but in the two-seater class you can take passengers with you, and as far as I know, that's the only race in existence where passengers are allowed to ride along in the race, not just get a ride in a race car. And so we were shuffling people through, and we had it's a little Volkswagen thing. It's fun, and we have fun doing it, but we've got Mattia Drudi, we've got Marco Sorensen, and we've got
real hot
Tom Gamble
shoes
driving, like top GT race winner.
Yeah.
I mean, just insane.
Yeah.
Marco's a world champion for crying out loud.
Yeah.
And then we brought the Hannas over as well to drive. So we have 5 drivers, all who drive for the Hard Racing team, and they were just giving these people rides all day and all night. And it was as it is in Spa. It was not raining on a little bit of the track. It rained on the whole track for about half the race. But everyone did a great job, had a lot of fun, and I said the Hannas did great. And learned a lot, obviously. Driving alongside such great big sports car stars. So
where'd you guys finish?
We came second.
Second.
That's
awesome.
Yeah. So it was good.
Oh, that's great.
Good. Yeah.
Good fun.
The guys like Mattia had never done it before. Tom had never done it before. Marco comes back every year because he just has a riot doing it.
Yeah.
Because he's out there, tossing it sideways with the passengers and just good times. It's nice to go do a race that doesn't have a lot of consequences,
right?
And just race for the sake of racing. That's why those guys like doing it too.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
that's great. Well, it rained at the British Grand Prix too.
Sure did. It was raining all over Europe, quite honestly.
Yeah. It was quite an affair, and as the British Grand Prix, we did have a little bit of controversy to talk about. So let's jump into the British Grand Prix and talk about the British Grand Prix that was the 2025
Let's do it.
British Grand Prix.
Queen and country, king country.
Little formation lap. Our formation lap doesn't start behind the safety car. We go right at it. What was everybody? So, talking about the race heading, it's Silverstone, right? You're always going to be talking about the track, how awesome the track is, what a great track it is, and it is. Mm-hmm. Talk about the weather, because it's, England and the weather, right? You talk about the wind.
England.
Because it's England. I mean, they're always talking about the weather in England. The wind, because everybody always reminds you 1,000 times, this is an old airstrip. It's an old airstrip. It's windy. And then interesting, all the talk is about Lando, right? So I got to say right up front, I'm a Yankee. Look, I get it. But I got to be honest with you, man. Silverstone is such a terrific track. And this race is always a great reminder of just how awesome British Formula One fans are. There was 500,000 fans over the weekend at this race. 500,000.
Yeah.
That's epic. And if you ever wondered where Formula One's spiritual home is, it's there.
Yeah.
They're incredible fans. Just, they love the sport. They love the drivers. The weather was certainly going to be a talking point. Relatively dry leading up the race, but certainly the weather forecast suggested that there would be rain around on Sunday, and there was. The one thing I noticed, first time I've noticed it, so ever since 2007, every British Grand Prix has been hyper fixated on Lewis Hamilton. I mean, it's all Lewis Hamilton all weekend, everything Lewis Hamilton. And I get it, obviously, he's a 7-time champ. I get it. And why wouldn't you be, right? This is your guy. So I get that. Except this year, I didn't see all the hyper fixation on Lewis. It was all about Lando this year. The Lando stands, 3 big grandstands full of Lando fans with yellow bucket hats, and it was all Lando. And that is, put a pin in this, because that's a sea change from all of the Lewis hype that you generally get on a British Grand Prix. I don't know if you noticed that. You're English, British, both.
Yeah, it does seem to be that Lando's the favourite of the new British regime, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, and definitely, he's got his own stand there, and he's definitely, obviously, the most likely next British driver to win a world championship. So, yeah, for sure. I'm sure it's a bit of a wake-up call, or maybe Lewis doesn't care, But, I mean, if Lewis was leading the race, I'm sure the crowd would be going crazy
of course.
too, right? It's not
Of
like
course.
Not like they've forgotten about him, but obviously
No.
things move on. He's not having a great season. Lando's winning races and running for a championship, so it makes complete sense.
Yeah, I mean, technically, Paul, you could, being British, you could almost claim Oscar by criminality history. You could claim Oscar, could you not?
I might.
As one of your own. So, the Great Prisoner Island. So, anyway, yes, a lot of talk about Lando going to this. This track, Paul, you've driven around this track. And as you've been around this track your whole life.
Yep.
It's such a great combination of just about everything in racing.
Yeah.
It's slow speed, medium, high speed, long straights. Everything is really good. As a layperson sitting at home watching this, I tend to think the feel of full throttle through Maggots Beckett's has got to be pretty epic.
Yeah.
Then I kind of feel like coming around and going down Hanger Straight and going into Stowe looks
amazing.
Incredible.
The entry
right?
to Stowe, yeah.
Yeah, the entry to Stowe. But what parts of this track, as a race car driver, really resonate? What do you love about Silverstone?
Yeah, I mean, it's like all tracks, all race car drivers like going fast. And it's not about going fast in a straight line. We like going fast and challenging ourselves through corners, and there's so many corners on this track that are challenging at high speed, right? The entry to Stowe, coming all the way down the Hanger Straight. Obviously, the Beckett's Maggots combination.
Yep.
You got to have rhythm, but you got to have a lot of Alonsos when you set that up. The technical stuff. I mean, the track's evolved a lot. One of my favorites when I was a kid was sitting at the Woodcote chicane, which doesn't even exist anymore.
Right.
And obviously this is the place that Keke Rosberg did the first over 150 mile an hour average track, right? And it's definitely changed since then. It was super high speed everywhere except for the Woodcote chicane, really. So
and
yeah,
maybe Club, maybe.
Yeah, Club too. Yeah. So yeah, it is a good blend, and they kept the rhythm going. They have changed it a little bit. You know, the older of us probably think they changed it too much, but I think it still really works, and it's a good combination for racing. It does give some good elements to be able to pass, and honestly, the spectator viewership, etc., is great. In so many areas around there for a track that's so fast. You know?
That little section, was it Woodcut chicane, and then was it Chapel that went away?
Chapel, yeah.
I always thought that was an interesting complex in there, though.
Right. Remember Damon Hill and Schumacher going through that area?
Yeah.
A lot of memories from that portion, and that was actually an addition to when I first started going to Silverstone. Right. I used to go down Hanger all the way into Woodcote Chicane and then off. But good stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Good, lots of memories
track.
from that track, kind of like Monaco. There's so many corners, so many things have happened over the years.
Yeah. Just about every corner. Say, well, Stowe, that's where Schumacher broke his leg.
Oh, that was weird.
Yeah, on Stowe. That was brutal. 99, I think that was.
Yep.
So, yeah. And then Eddie Irvine took the reins of Ferrari at that point.
He did.
And then Michael came back and was really the support driver at that point, helping. And I remember Eddie Irvine saying, that guy sucks. Not only is he he's a world champion, he's like the best number 2 driver ever. It was so funny.
Yeah, that was a weird season, wasn't it?
It was a weird season. Let's jump into the race, how they finished, and we'll cover each team driver, etc. We'll start off at the sharp end, start off with McLaren, with Lando Norris taking his first British Grand Prix win. Oscar Piastri in second. We'll talk about Lando first, and we'll get into Oscar and the penalty. Lando had a decent start, fended off Hamilton. Hamilton looking really racy there at the start. Got a great launch on the top 3 cars, looked to try to get around outside of Lando. Lando did a good job holding him off. Ran in third for a good portion of that race. And then ultimately at that second safety car, Max had that spin. That allowed him to get around, and then when Oscar served his penalty that gave Oscar the lead. To be fair, I mean, Lando erased a 6-second lead that Oscar had over him. Now, you could argue Oscar was just managing the pace and that sort of thing. And, he inherited that win on back of a penalty, but also, that's part of racing, and you've got to be there to take advantage of that. And Lando was completely on song. Both the McLarens well ahead of the rest of the field. He drove a great race, very tough conditions, stayed measured, stayed calm, executed perfectly, and won his first British Grand Prix. Super happy for Lando. That's back-to-back wins for him. He needed to open his account on the World Championship. Oscar was starting to run away with it. He's done that. It's down to just a handful of points, 5-8 points, something like that between them. A really good race. Maybe you'd rather Lando, really hunt down Oscar and make a bold pass and win. Of course, that would be great, but a win's a win, Paul, and you got to be there to take advantage.
Yeah, you do. Maybe some wonder, how could he be that happy when he just kind of got handed the win for a penalty? But, I've been in that situation before, and, quite honestly, you don't give a damn. If you win the race and the connotations that go with it, it means you got more points on the board, the championship, and you win in front of your these things go against you as well. So you take them when you get them, and you don't dwell on the fact that maybe you weren't the one running up front. But as you said, he kept Oscar very honest. Probably one of the easiest wins he's had so far, because he didn't have to pass anybody.
Right.
He just had to not make a mistake, and that's what he did. And so good for him for the championship. It's good for all of us to be, because it's going to get pretty tense here pretty soon with as close as it's becoming. But Oscar still did drive a great race, and unfortunately he got that penalty, which really hurt, and I understand that as well. Yeah,
he had that good start, passed Max right up front, Paul, got around him, really one stop for those fresh enters. Everybody else at the leading edge did. Then the rain started to fall again, pulled out a 13-second lead over everybody. I mean, the McLarens were just in a class of their own. The first safety car procedure seemed to go well. He held the lead after the restart, but it was really that second safety car saw him hit the brakes. Now, the numbers were he jammed on the brakes, 60 PSI, which was twice as much as George did in Canada. Hit the brakes, 60 PSI. They said he scrubbed off 100 miles an hour or 160 kph. When he jammed on those brakes, and he jammed up the entire field behind him. He got a 10-second penalty. Was not happy about that at all, and the team lodged a complaint and said that penalty wasn't correct, and they were going to fight it. And then prompted Oscar to say, well, if you're going to fight it, maybe we should reverse the running order and put me back ahead of Lando. I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask, right? The team wasn't about to do that. No. You shouldn't penalize Lando because of something that's going on with Oscar. But he did eventually box, served that 10-second penalty, slotted into second behind Lando, finished a McLaren 1-2, a banner weekend. This is a team that jammed Trafalgar Square for McLaren Day with all their fans, went to Silverstone. This thing was pretty much, if you're writing a script, and who knows, maybe somebody did, it was a McLaren weekend for sure. Let's talk about that penalty, Paul. It was a tough penalty. It was interesting in the cool-down room. You had Oscar talking to Nico Hulkenberg, right. And Nico didn't know why he got the penalty for. He said, what did you get the penalty? He says, I hit the brakes. The lights on the safety car went off, and I hit the brakes and to give me some space. And Nico even said, we all jammed up behind that. He kind of said, and Nico's a little bit back. Yeah. And so Nico was kind of like, you pretty much jammed us all up back there behind with that move. How did you see that penalty? And then, how did you see the action? Then the penalty is 2 seconds. Too much, too little?
I mean, his explanation, I'm not quite buying that. He said, well, I was just warming up my brakes like I've been doing, but then it just so happened when he was hitting the brakes that the lights went out. I actually don't think that happened. And I think it was very extreme braking when you're the lead guy coming around in the, so... I think he was being a little cheeky. He was trying a little bit, and he got caught, honestly.
Yeah.
And maybe the penalty shouldn't have been 10 seconds. Maybe it should have been 5, because we've seen some pretty harsh stuff go for less than 10 seconds sometimes, so it didn't seem that egregious. I would say it's probably penalty worthy, especially. It's a big... It's a big thing to be in leader of the race, and you're in charge of basically all the cars behind you, and you kind of have a responsibility there. And I think he was trying to, and he's done it a couple of times this year. I think little things that maybe just a little off in the grey area. Yeah. And don't harm him for trying, but he's probably not going to do that again either. But it does have a big ramification. If you're like mid-pack to back, everything just basically stops, just as we all know when we're in a traffic jam, right?
Yeah, so, concertina's up, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I think it was a deserved penalty. Maybe it shouldn't have been as harsh, I'm not sure. But I definitely don't think he was completely innocent either.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of how I saw it too. He knew Max was on him and tried to jam up and give himself some space and generate some heat, and it was just too much. But anyway, he said it's a 1-2 at our home Grand Prix is brilliant. It's a great chunk of points for us. Well, it's frustrating one for me with the penalty. We had a rocket ship car, so thank you to the team for all their work, which meant we could pull such a gap over the rest of the field. I'll use the frustration of today to fuel us for the next weekend. Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, but I think he had the race. I mean, he was in control, which is a shame. But we've seen it before from the Schumachers of the world. Their line sometimes gets a little fuzzy, and they do things that aren't necessary when they've already got something already under control. Yeah. We've seen that from Seb. We've seen it from Max. We've seen it from Lewis. It happens. I don't hold it against him. I don't think he was trying to do anything too nefarious. I just think he got caught for it. He's being, like you said, gamesmanship is what he was playing.
Yeah, exactly. This is going to be the feel-good story of the entire weekend. It almost overshadowed Lando's win of the British Grand Prix, and that had to be Sauber's podium finish. You had Gabriel Bortoleto at DNF, Nico Hulkenberg third. We'll cover Gabriel real quick. He had a tough race, switching to mediums at the formation lap. Unfortunately, the rain came out. He spun, damaged his car, parked it up on track with a DNF that causes the first safety car. So, or no, that was a virtual safety car maybe. So anyway,
because he got going.
Yeah. So bad weekend. But let's talk about Nico. What a fairy tale story of the race. He started from last, Paul.
Yeah.
And the team boxed him perfectly. And he stayed on inters to rise up to P10. So as teams boxed ahead of him and gambled on tire strategies, Nico drove a veteran race, good pace, passing Stroll for P3. Then he started holding off Hamilton through a pit stop, no less, for mediums for an overcut. For mediums late in the race, and still held Hamilton off. He came out, there's like a 7-second delta. I thought Lewis was going to hunt him down. He didn't. He pulled out pace on Lewis, kept the Ferrari well behind him, came home third, his first podium finish in Formula One in 239 Grand Prix. Couldn't happen to a better guy. You and I've watched his entire career. And I've always rated Nico very highly. I've always thought he's a really good guy, good racer, and it's just befuddling he'd never have a podium. So he finally got it. And kudos to the British crowd because, here you got Lando winning the Grand Prix. They're elated. But the cheers for Nico, here's a German driver, driving for Sauber, which is going to be Audi, right? And here the whole British fan base went crazy with applause and cheers for Nico because they knew what it meant to him, and they're true race fans, And I just love that about the British fans over there. So a great result, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, that's, as you said, the British fans, the heart of Formula One is there, and the crowd are very, not intelligent, but they're very aware of history of Formula One and who does what. And so, that was great to see. I mean, who thought we'd get it in this car, though?
In the Sauber.
It's like, he's driven some better cars, that's for sure. And, he's missed the spot a little bit on the musical chairs game and ended up in the wrong car at the wrong time and didn't actually get the shot to be in the right car at the right time. I mean, the cars, this is very, very surprising. Not surprising Nico Hulkenberg's on the podium, but so very surprising he's done it now and in that car. But that said, we've talked about it the last few weeks. He's been doing very well. It's not this is the first good result. They've actually started getting some decent results. And
4 or 5 races now.
Yeah, I mean, you sneak yourself into a position like that through strategy, you still shouldn't be able to hold off Lewis Hamilton. You still have to have a good car. And so kudos to the Sauber team for persevering and keep pushing. And actually giving these guys a chance to actually compete. And and Hulkenberg's paid them back tenfold, right? I mean, so happy for him. So happy for him.
Well, that jumps him, Paul, up to 6th in the constructors?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
This is Sauber we're talking about.
Right.
That's awesome.
They basically got points in the last race of the year last year, I think, right?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And that was it. But Nico always, we always say if there's a good car, if he's in a good car, he's going to get you a result.
He's going to deliver.
He absolutely did that.
Yeah.
And the strategy was perfect, and he drove exceedingly well, which he has been done for a little while this year already. So absolutely, so happy for him. He so didn't deserve the moniker of the most.
I know.
How many races he's got under there and not being on a podium, and now Sutil's got it evidently.
Oh, is it Sutil?
Which is much more deserved.
Yes.
And I don't see him making a comeback either.
No. Hide the champagne flutes. I don't either. So great result for him. And as you point out, it's a fabulous result for all the men and women of that team. They've worked really hard. And testament to Jonathan Wheatley, Mattia Binotto, starting to see success. We've been talking about it now for the last 4 or 5 races. that Sauber's starting to percolate. It's starting to come up. Whatever they're doing is starting to work. Some of the upgrades have worked. The team's methodically going after this. The strategy's getting tighter. Just things are happening, and it's perfect on the eve of Audi coming in as a full Audi Works team. So it's great. Yeah, it's great. Great for them. Not so great for Ferrari. Charles Leclerc down in P14, Lewis Hamilton P4. Charles, like a few others, Charles boxed on the formation lap for mediums, but it was the wrong gamble for everyone that did this. I mean, this just worked horribly. And I'm not that I'm a Delphic Oracle, but I'm sitting at home watching all these guys dive in on the formation line. I was like, ooh, no, that's a bad move.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that. This isn't MotoGP, and you're not Marc Marquez here. This isn't going to work, and it didn't. Charles sunk through the field, had a few off-track excursions, boxed, ran midfield or worse for most of the day. Very ragged race. Running off track. I saw somebody, I don't know who did it. I saw something on social media that had a map of Silverstone, and it said Silverstone for normal people. And then it had in red ink this line that sort of followed it, but kind of went off over here and down here and around and looped around. And it said this is Charles Leclerc's lap around. It was pretty harsh, but it was kudos to them. That was funny. But anyway, miserable race for him, Paul.
Yeah, I don't know what got into him. He was not happy.
Yeah.
I mean, he was mentally destroyed before he even started the race, I think.
Yeah.
He certainly didn't get any better. So I'm not sure what was going on there. But even, he was saying, well, I just didn't have a car to get a good result. Well, I think Lewis got a pretty good result in the end, right? So it was possible as long as you keep it on the road, especially with what happened to Vax and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. It's just a real messy, clunky, just error-prone weekend for him. So he has to come back from that, little trooper. But we don't want to go down that road again. Right.
He said, quote, I went quite extreme with the setup on my car for the last few races. It paid off in the dry. However, the conditions we saw here today didn't seem to work as well. There's a lot of work ahead of us, end quote.
Yeah. Supposedly they say the Ferrari in the wet is very, very difficult, so I'm trying to figure out where they're going to miss there.
Probably evidenced by Lewis's race. Struggled a lot. Took a poke at Lando in the wet at the start. The pace just seemed to erode when it was raining and pretty wet. Not when it's torrential spray. That was bad for everybody. But even Lewis came and said, this car is so hard to drive. It's so snappy, the rear end. And he just couldn't really get it hooked. But once that track started to dry out, then all of a sudden Lewis is on it. And I thought he looked like he might be on for a podium at this point. He's on drying inters, and I thought if his inters could hang on. They started to fade, unfortunately, and arguably you could say he probably should have stopped. He probably stopped a lap too soon. He struggled in the mediums when he came back out, so that didn't work. And he came out with a 7-second delta, as I mentioned earlier, to Nico, and it was just too much for Lewis to reel him in. So he ended up finishing down at P4. He said, not the result we were hoping for today, but we're continuing to grow as a team and get more in tune with the car. Third place felt within reach at times, but credit to Nico on his first podium. He drove a really strong race. So,
I think I think Lewis actually drove a really good race. He didn't obviously make the mistakes that Charles was making.
Yeah, for sure.
Minimize that stuff. He had that one issue coming out of the pit lane that lost him time, and obviously that helped Nico gap.
For sure.
Maybe if he had pitted a lap later with Nico, then pitted a lap later than him, I think Nico and Sauber are always going to go for the overcut, and it definitely seemed to work on many occasions for a lot of people. Right, till it got completely dry. I think the overcut lap and the pain of driving out of the pit lane on the cold slick.
On the slicks.
Or it was just what was going to happen. And so I guess they would. Lewis probably pitted just because he couldn't stand being on the rain tires anymore, and thought maybe he could at least give it a go, and he did. But the car wasn't quite there, was it?
Yeah, I thought it was a good performance given the car. And it kind of was a tale of two races. You know, there was Lewis struggling a lot in the rain, holding it all together and trying to make passes and fighting back there. And then when it dried out, you know, he really seemed to come unsung. So you could see him pushing hard. You know, he loved Silverstone. He wanted,
really wanted
to get
it,
on that
that's for
podium.
sure, yeah.
He wanted it bad. Yeah. He always does. He loves the British fans, loves that adulation. He wanted it big time. Red Bull, Max Verstappen in P5, Yuki Tsunoda P15. Max, it could be argued that trimming out that rear wing, Paul, on Saturday is what gave Max the pole position and a stunning pole run. On the flip side of it, you could say that trimming out that rear wing cost Max during the wet race. Lack of downforce, Max struggled a lot. He lost the lead to Oscar, was compounded with his spin after the second safety car, dropped him down to 10th. But, you know, as Max does, Max did a Max thing and dragged the car by the scruff of the neck back up to P5. He said, quote, today wasn't great. We didn't think it was going to be so wet today. The weather forecast overnight changed, and it was not in our favor. So it was really difficult with the rear wing we had today, end quote. He was struggling really all weekend, and that pole position was quite a surprise.
Yeah, it was an amazing pole position. But they did throw a bit of a gamble on it, obviously. They were hoping for, as they said in the quote, a lot drier weather, which may have played out. I still don't think they had McLaren's number by any means.
No.
But they went for whatever they thought they could maximize it, and definitely in the rain he struggled vitally. And just keeping a hold of the thing, let alone going fast. Now, do we know if Yuki had the same setup as well?
I don't know if he was trimmed out like that. My hunch would be no, but I don't know.
I would
I thought
go the opposite way.
I thought that when I saw him at qualifying, it seemed like he had more rear wing than Max did. But
right.
I could be wrong. Don't quote me.
I don't know. So, but he's struggling enough as it is. I was just wondering what the Yuki thing was. But yeah, Max did an amazing job in getting where he got in the end, and obviously the drying track at the end helped him actually make some gains when it looked like he was going to be like a 9th or 10th place person. So
right.
Maybe that's
it's a really good point.
Right now.
You bring up, Paul, but when that rain, it was miserable. Once it got dry, very much like Lewis, then he started making up places. You know, then that car and that lack of downforce, he did very quickly. Yeah. And if he had another 10 laps or so, he could have been threatening for a podium.
Yeah. But as I said, I don't think he didn't have any place to beat the McLarens anyway. But he was trying to make the best of what they had. Obviously, they're still struggling with this car, making that kind of compromise.
Right. And then Yuki down P15, mired in the chaos in the midfield, got a 10-second penalty for spinning Behrman, ended up a lap down in last place. And I thought his quote was interesting. He said, quote, "It was not easy out there at all today, but somehow it was not really that messy of a race for myself."
I guess he's grading on a curve because it looked pretty messy to me.
It was a bell curve, apparently. I only had one or two collisions in this race compared to others.
I did not end upside down. It was a great day.
Yeah.
Still, oh my God, the second Red Bull. My goodness.
I know. Just, it's tough. It's tough.
Unbelievable, yeah.
Let's see, Alpine, Pierre Gasly, another feel-good story of the weekend. P6, Franco Calpinto, DNS. Pierre had really, in my mind, and we've talked about this, and there's times this year that we've talked about this podcast, he's just doing a great job, Paul, and you wouldn't really notice it because of the car, but it's a banner race for him. Given the struggles he was having on Friday, you thought Friday was miserable, he'd be out in Q1, he'd be last in the race. But that's not what happened. He had a tough Friday. The team worked hard to get that car settled, get it more drivable. He ends up making it into Q3, a great qualifying, managed to have a really good start, ran in the top 10 for most of the race, got Lewis during the pit stops. And then even though later in the race, Lewis and Max were faster than him, he managed to pip Lance Stroll on the very last lap and nab P6.
That was a great move, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great move. So
On the outside
you
of
know,
Stowe, right?
yeah, on the outside of Stowe. So
Yeah, baby.
yeah, it took some attachments, right? And so I don't want to sound like I'm the president of the Pierre Gasly fan club, but good grief, it was a great run for him.
It is. I mean, you can't turn it around with just on your own, obviously, but
Yeah.
the team and the driver have to work to try and figure out how to fix that car, and they did a great job turning around and say qualifying was great and essential, and with all the turmoil going on, it rocketed him up, into the top 5, and he kind of made the best of that and scoring more points in a car that probably shouldn't be scoring points right now.
Yeah.
So Flavio better be giving him a little bit of a raise, I hope.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
He said, quote, "We had some nice on-track battles with drivers we don't normally fight with, like Fernando and Lewis and Max." So that was fun. It was all about judging the risk, and we just tried to go for it. We took the risk, paid off with the right strategy calls and great pit stops. So
Yeah.
very true. Franco Calpinto, not so lucky for him. He was due to start from the pit lane, did the formation lap, came in, got stuck in gear, couldn't get out of gear. He had done a PU change, so he was starting pit lane, couldn't get out of gear, couldn't start the race. A lot of questions, I would imagine. At this point, Flavio is probably sitting on the pit wall saying,
Get our car! Get our car!
I'm thinking.
Maybe
That's-
Flavio's actually got the handbrake in that car. I said, just leave it there.
Yeah, just park it.
He will not be driving today. We need to save this French engine for our next driver.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, tough.
Yeah.
Tough. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a nothing race for him, really, but he wasn't qualifying well. And
No.
so,
Right. Friday was tough and it didn't qualify that great. So,
yeah.
a lot of talk about his continuation in that seat. We'll have to wait and see what
Who
happens.
they're speculating will be the next contestant.
Valtteri Bottas is what I'm hearing.
Okay.
That's the rumor that most people say seem legit,
Yeah,
being that it's going to have a Mercedes engine in it next year, and
Right.
et cetera, et cetera.
makes sense to me.
And it's a happy place for Toto to plant Valtteri in his mullet so he
Yeah.
doesn't have to see him wandering around
my
like
God.
Wes Anderson movie in the garage. So that's good. Let's see. This is a good story too. Aston Martin dual points finish. Fernando Alonso in P9, a less than happy P9 for Fernando. Lance Stroll in 7th. We'll start with Fernando. Fernando not happy with the team strategy. He saw Lance and what they did with Lance. He was up running in 3rd place, but he lost pace when it started to rain. And to be fair, the team strategy for Fernando was just mirroring the leaders.
Yeah,
Now, you could argue that the car didn't have the pace to pull that strategy, and what they did with Lance was more akin to what they probably should have done with Fernando. And I'm assuming that's what Fernando would say too. With Lance coming from 17th to 3rd, I'm sure he wasn't happy that they didn't try to be a little more aggressive with his strategy. He was the first to change to slicks. When they did, they thought, okay, well, we've ticked off Fernando. Let's do something. Let's pit him now for slicks. Okay, sounds
spin
great.
the wheel,
babe.
Bob.
Yeah.
Yep. Pit now, box.
Pit now. Yeah. Slicks. Yeah, it was too aggressive, too early. Then he struggled, sunk lower, left a lot of work for him to do to get a P9. Not a happy bunny was Fernando, but he did get up into the points. And how would you have done something markedly different there, Paul?
With Fernando?
Fernando.
I mean, I think, the second time when they pitted him for slicks, I think that was just a knee-jerk reaction to, as you say, just to do something.
Yeah.
I don't think he was in a horrible position. Just some people who didn't have anything to lose were rolling the dice, and it worked. And that's why seeing Lance ahead of him is probably the big thing in his head. It's like, how the hell did Lance
I think
get
so.
by me?
How did Lance get up there?
Yeah, my team's running the same strategy. So
yeah,
I think the
I was
second
just gonna
one was
go ahead.
the worst one. Yeah.
Yeah, the second one. Yeah. I was just going to tell you what he said. I quote, "I feel like it was a missed opportunity today. Despite scoring points, it was difficult to read with the rain falling again, and we lost some positions in the first stop. For the second pit stop, we pitted too soon, and I lost a lot of time on a slightly damp track on slick tires," end quote. So that kind of sums it up, I think.
All true.
It's all true. And meanwhile, over on Lance's, I know we've said this many times since Lance got into, so we first saw it in Canada, I think. I remember seeing changing condition. We've said this many times about Lance. He just does very well in changing conditions. I don't know why.
Yeah.
He just really excels in this kind of race where it's, wet, dry, dry, wet, or dry, wet, dry, or vice versa. He just really seems to come on song, Paul. He was doing great running up in P3. He didn't have the sheer pace to hold on to that podium, but you could argue probably should have held on to it over Sauber. But Nico's no slouch, and he was gunning for it. Probably, I would argue on the motivation scale, I would argue that Nico was quite a bit more motivated about that podium than maybe what Lance was. Yeah. Shame he can't get this kind of performance on every race, but he was running third for quite a while. Great call from the team. They boxed him during that drying before the rain. It was damp, started drying out. They gambled,
softs, right?
boxed for softs, ran a handful of laps flat out on softs, and ramped him up to P3. And then the rain came, and he boxed like everybody else for enters. So he went from 17th to 3rd. He didn't have the pace to hold off the quicker cars, as I said. Ended up down in P7, but a really good run for Lance.
Yeah, no, it was. And I think the call on softs make complete sense to me. Some other cars went on to hards.
Hards, Mercedes.
Didn't make any sense to me unless they thought they were just going to run till the end of the race on those things. I'm not quite
maybe.
sure what they were doing. But yeah, I mean, he does. I'm still not sure I can explain that really. Maybe he just has a good vision of how the track was, and maybe he's not the fastest driver in the world that can put down the lap, but he actually has a good eye for race management, which could be the case. He's been around it long enough for sure.
Yeah, I wasn't watching his lines closely during it was wet. I don't know if he was constantly changing his lines like the top, rain drivers do, finding grip where it wasn't, or whatever's going on in that mysterious mind of Lance Stroll. Yeah. When it's changing conditions, he feels it, and he does well.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to go back and go on board with him and see what he was doing. If he was
doing
anything,
was doing.
Maybe it was just the strategy was just perfect and he just executed it. But it does seem to be a definite line of performance that he always does that.
Yep. Let's see, Williams, Alex Albon in P8, Carlos Sainz in P12. Alex tried to stay out on his inters when everyone else boxed for new inters. He was running as high as 3rd, but then dropped down the field when he finally did box. Redemption really came with perfect timing for slicks, and that left him in the top 10. He was able to pass Alonso on the last lap for P8. A great race for him. He said, I'm happy with our race today. We got a balance right between risky and safe and bounced back from a tricky day yesterday. Towards the end of the race, we had really good pace, good rhythm, and managed to get Alonso on the last lap, end quote.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure Val's pretty happy. They seem to be struggling, seem they're on the outside looking in, but a couple of good calls, and that leaving him out there, I'm sure you're like sitting there on that last lap and you're just sliding around, just seeing everyone go by. You're like, oh, it should have been just one lap earlier, but luckily he held on to it and they were able to come back from that.
Yeah, it was a good race. Not as good for Carlos. He had a decent race going, but Charles ran wide, came back on the track. Carlos said he damaged his front wing and underfloor. He said, it's going to be hard to ever get in the points with a damaged car. And he said, it, quote, "It seems to be the story of my season so far. Very annoying that different issues continue to impact our weekends. I'm driving well. I know better days will come, but it's frustrating at this point. I'm looking forward to the 2-week reset and hopefully I can come back better." Tough weekend for him. Doesn't help when Charles is on the scenic bus tour of Silverstone, running into your front wing or damaging your floor. It's pretty rough.
Yeah, it's pretty rough, and obviously a little damage goes a long way, especially at a high-speed circuit like this.
Yeah.
A little aerodynamic negative can just kill you.
Yeah, for sure, as Max found out.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, Mercedes, George Russell P10, Kimi Antonelli a second DNF. In a row here. George, we know that Mercedes likes cooler temps. And it's odd to me, anyway, that they couldn't capitalize on that advantage with a dodgy call to change George to slicks on the formation lap. It was very un-Mercedes, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
The strategy, as everyone who did that found out, it was way too early to do that. It didn't work for George either. And things were made worse when they switched George back to the slicks, like Fernando, too early, and he ran off again. Didn't have the pace, struggled for pace, dropped towards the back, finally dragged it up to P10, but he was under threat there from Ollie Behrman, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, Ollie Behrman, yeah.
Yeah, Ollie Behrman damn near passed him. So
yeah.
I don't know. It just feels like a missed opportunity for me with Mercedes. I'm on the outside looking in, so I don't know what they know. But if, they're very quick to tell you that in cooler temps, their tire management, everything really comes on song. And we saw that in Canada, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. It just feels like the strategy. I feel like had he not boxed on the formation lap, he'd have been there or thereabouts with the Ferraris and Max, etc.
Yeah, for sure he would have.
Yeah.
They definitely doubled down on that call, and it didn't work either time, right?
Yeah.
But they were running the alternate strategy with Kimi, so maybe there was some reasoning behind it. But yeah, maybe it's Monday morning quarterback stuff, if you're not on the track, what are we seeing and what are they seeing? I don't know. But
right.
As you said, it's pretty apparent as soon as everyone started leaving pit lane that the slick call was bad at the beginning, and then also doing it so early, we were seeing the overcuts work so well in the second string of stops that, hopefully you'd think they'd try something different the next time, but they didn't. So pretty dismal day for the Mercedes boys.
Yeah, Kimi had a DNF. Day started with him staying out, as you mentioned, on enters when George boxed. So it was looking better for him. Things went pear-shaped for him when it really started to rain at the restart. They got all that spray, and then Hadjar couldn't see him, ran into the back of his rear end, damaged his car, forcing an early retirement for Kimi. So unfortunate race for him.
Yep, very much so. He needs to bounce back a little bit, but
yeah, he does.
Made the mistake last week, but this wasn't his. So
yeah. Had a decent qualifying. Had that grid penalty though. Started back in midfield. Yeah. Haas, Esteban Ocon, P13, Ollie Behrman, P11. Esteban got squeezed at the start between Yuki and Liam and ended up hitting Liam, ending the Aussies race. This left him at the back on enters, and then later when Ollie tried to pass on Esteban, they both spun in complete sync with each other off the track.
Yeah.
Esteban said the thing that happened with Ollie at the end, I'm sad about. I'm sad for the team as well, as we both deserve more from today. We deserve to be in the points from where we came from, so we'll review to improve.
Yeah, that was a very bad move by Behrman. I
Yeah.
mean, there was no way he tried to pass Ocon on the inside, so completely on the wet stuff on his slicks. I mean, I don't know what he was thinking.
Yeah,
but he was lucky to get away with not just taking both cars out and landing on, stopping it right there. So for him to come back was pretty impressive, really. I mean, and the car had a lot of potential, I feel. So that was a big mistake that cost them points for sure, I would say.
Yeah.
They would have got Russell.
I totally agree with you. Ollie tried the slicks on the formation lap too. It didn't work. However, he was driving very well out there. Things got worse when Yuki punted him, but even still, he started on those slicks, the formation. That didn't work. Then he got punted by Yuki. That didn't work. Then he and Esteban go off. That was bad. And still, after that incident, he was very fast, and he was hounding Russell for P10, right? Yeah. And he even said, quote, "We've been so fast this weekend, it's just disappointing to end like that." And I agree with him. There's the rookie thing, and, Isaac had his moment too. But, and Gabriel Borletto had his moment, and I get it, and it's all a learning curve, so I don't want to take the stuffing out of Ollie, but there are some kind of questionable, iffy moves. They're going to have to kind of set him down and have that talk with him.
Yeah, that definitely was a move that was not on.
Yeah.
And yeah, he went off. He's been off 3 times, I guess, when we had him up, at least twice.
Yeah.
And still came back to 11th. I mean, definitely a wasted opportunity with a car that was very lively.
No doubt. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, there's no question he's fast and he's got the speed. It's just now measuring it in racecraft time, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Then finally, miserable weekend for the Racing Bulls. Both Liam and Isaac DNFs. Liam got tagged at the start by Esteban. That ended his race, put him out. Isaac boxed on the formation lap. We know that didn't work. That put him in the back of the pack. And then at a restart, ends up hitting Antonelli, ending both of their races. So very difficult race for Racing Bulls. Kind of unfortunate because I felt like both of them seemed to have some decent pace over Friday. There was some,
top 10-ish.
Yeah, there was some, not a great qualifying for Liam. I get it, but Isaac, both of them seemed to have some pace, and I was curious about their long run race pace if they could nip a point or two.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always on the table. It's like it seems like everyone was saying could have been in 10th place, but it's probably true, quite honestly.
Yeah, right.
But just the Racing Bulls car is pretty darn good, so definitely not finishing either of the cars is a big disappointment.
Yeah, big disappointment. Well, that is how they all finish. This is what we think. We hand out awards during this podcast. The first award we tend to hand out is Move of the Race.
Seriously, Todd?
Yes.
Get out of the car!
Get out of the car, Paul. Oh, boy. A big applause if anyone can tell me what that's from. Let's see. Your move of the race, Paul. Who was it? What
move
was
of the race? I'm going to give it to the overcut.
Oh, nice.
And the team's calling it, and the driver's executing it because I think it was just so
strong.
powerful there, and worked for Nico, worked for a few others as well. So the undercut and the rain, it's it usually works that way, but it was so apparent here of how well that works. I mean, just the outlap on the slick tires is so vulnerable, and then that extra lap of track drying before the overcutter jumps in, it was a slam dunk, really.
Yeah. My move was the formation lap boxing. It just didn't work, and several people tried it.
So it's a bad move of the race now.
Yeah, it was a bad move of the race. I was on the couch going, no, don't do that. That's not going to work out well. I watched the formation lap. There's still a lot of water out there, especially in Sector 3. I just didn't think that was going to work.
Don't like that.
No, they don't. So anyway, that was mine. All right. Well, the next award we hand out, we like to call the donkey of the race because it seems fitting. All right, Paul. Who'd you have?
I got man. Charles.
Yeah, a worthy.
That was a hash of a weekend.
That was.
So
it was really ragged.
Go have a shower, clean yourself up.
Yeah.
Get your head screwed on right.
Come on, Charles. You're better than this.
He is so much better than that.
Yeah, that was ragged. My donkey of the race was Mercedes. I just don't know what happened there. It's cooler temps, rain, it starts to dry out, boxing in the formation.
Maybe Toto with his hoodie up, he couldn't see everything.
I think it's the flat cap.
Vision. Yeah.
Every time the team tries to do that retro fashion wear thing,
true.
They end up
that
messing
Germany?
it up.
That was oh my God.
Or Austria or something. I don't know what it was, but yeah.
I think it was
Hungary.
German
I don't know. It was German.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Every time they go for that whole retro fashion thing, they don't do well.
No.
So let's just leave the leader and the flat caps at home next time, and let's go racing. Yeah. That was not good. All right, the final award we hand this one out. It is Drive of the Race.
Get in there, Lewis.
Yes, Drive of the Race. Who'd you have, Paul? I think we both had the same.
Yeah, how can you not give it to Nico Hulkenberg?
Got to.
You got to.
Gotta.
And I might even give it to his daughter. Did you see the little...
I did. Wasn't that great?
Oh, my God. Oh, that was unbelievable.
Oh, so
that
cute.
Was so good.
I know.
Yeah.
His daughter's jumping up and down for daddy as he's holding up the trophy. It's just, as a father of daughters, both of us, a father of daughters, it's so, it's magical. It's wonderful. Yeah.
Very sweet.
Great to see. So kudos to Nico Hulkenberg. It's fabulous. And it was great because K-Mag was there. And I saw a picture of him and K-Mags, and K-Mags was congratulating him. So, and I saw right as they were getting out of the cars, Nico got out, and Max was one of the first drivers over there to congratulate him. And that's,
he's a well-liked guy, right? And that's, he's been there a lot of years, and it'd be easy to grow a lot of enemies when you're competing at that level.
Yeah, he's done well at Le Mans, too.
Yeah, not too shabby.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, that does it for this, but we'll be back. If you like this podcast, share it with a friend. Tell somebody about it. Go to your favorite player. Give us a good rating. We'd appreciate that. Also, you can catch us on Instagram, on TikTok, your favorite socials, X, all that good stuff. Huge shout out to our Patreon supporters. I know times are tough. We're starting to lose Patreon supporters, and I know times are tough, but if you like the podcast, you feel like helping us out, we wouldn't and couldn't do this podcast without our Patreon supporters. So you can go to our website, The Park for May. On the right-hand side or at the bottom, it says support us, and you can support us in multiple ways. And so we'd appreciate that. Patreon supporters get the podcast with no ads or anything like it in them. And there's no ads or embedded ads or anything like that. So if you'd like to listen with no ads and all that, you can become a Patreon supporter, and you get no ads, which is nice. So anyway, we will be back. We have a little bit of a hiatus, a couple of weeks until it's right back to Spa.
All right.
Paul. Yeah. So maybe you could call and give them a few tips. You were just there.
Yeah. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't.
Yeah. What's your favorite turn at Spa?
Oh, jeez.
Pouhon.
No.
Stavilo.
No.
Kemmel straight.
I mean, you have to pick a rouge because, I know in Formula One it's flat and probably easy flat, but when I drove it, it wasn't flat and it wasn't easy. And it was like, you come around the hairpin and you're like, okay, here it comes again.
Yeah.
And you're like, because if you get it a little bit wrong, it can go very, very wrong. And it's just an amazing, the whole thing. Eau Rouge Radion.
Eau Rouge Radion, yeah.
And when you get it right, it's like, woo, I'm the man.
And especially in the cars you're driving with all the suspension compression down at the bottom and at Radion as it lifts,
Oh, the big lift is quite
Yeah.
big. If you don't have the car pointing the right way, you don't know where the car's going to end up.
Yeah.
But when you drive around it and every turn is great. That's what I'm saying. It's like, it's so hard because you're just happy to be on any of these corners a fun to drive. So what a track.
It's a great track.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll be back next week to do this all over again, and I'll go find Grace, and we'll get her thoughts on the British Grand Prix and McLaren domination. I'm sure she'll be happy to talk about it, and she'll probably want to talk about MotoGP too, I would imagine. That's what she does. So, all right. Well, until that time, this is Todd, a.k.a. Negative Camera, saying so long. Can I say so long? Sure.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.